Chapter 71, The Quiet Days Are Over. Nanabar looked at the soldier with an amused expression. If he remembered correctly, Mike and the others said they would teach Takashi once he joined the corps. After thinking about it for a moment, Nanabar said to Captain Mike, "Roland is getting married in a few months and will be on vacation very soon. Maybe we can let that cadet fill in for him." A soldier nodded. "I think so, although explorations outside the wall are very dangerous, this boy will not die easily." Mike touched his beard, feeling helpless. "I thought so too, but Hanj said he wants that cadet in his squadron." With a slightly puzzled expression, Nanabar said, "Why is the captain of Squadron 4, Hanj Zoe, paying attention to Takashi? I thought she was only interested in Eren Jiga." "I don't know. Who knows what she thinks? Anyway, after investigating Takashi, she wanted to have him in Squad 4. Because the previous investigators of the Corps thought Takashi's ideas were good, Hanj Zoe verified Takashi's information, even asked the commander and some of the captains about his background, and then suddenly wanted Takashi in her squadron." Back to Takashi's side, Captain Kitz with blood on his face ran to Takashi and took a deep breath as he said, "Fortunately, you made it in time." With a sigh, Takashi looked at the bodies of the fallen soldiers and said, "They should have sent the signal much earlier. 3 good soldiers have died." Kitz's face was filled with helplessness. He wanted to resolve that Titan with his squad, but who knew that Titan was an abnormal, moreover a dancer? That Titan that acted normal and then danced surprised a support squad and the attack squad. "The Titans in our area have been cleared. That crazy Survey Corps woman Hanj Zoe said she wants to capture some Titans alive. You and the elite team go check out the situation and help if you can." "Understood." Takashi was a bit surprised and moved quickly with the elite squad. Compared to the situation of facing abnormal Titans attacking from all directions in the dangerous environment outside the wall, now was a good time to capture Titans. Of course, for many people, this is still a crazy idea. In the afternoon, Survey Corps Squad 4 began capturing the only 2 remaining Titans in the Trust District, a Titan about 4 meters tall and another about 7 meters tall, who were specially selected by Survey Corps when they were eliminating the other Titans. It was the Survey Corps people who initiated the operation, and the top people were in charge of the logistics, when all the equipment was put in place to tie up the Titans, such as spikes, strong ropes and transport vehicles. By this time, the Survey Corps people had already started their work. Takashi, Ian and Rico were watching from the roof of a 2-story building. There is no need for them to take action at all. There are plenty of experts at Survey Corps. In such environmental conditions, there is no problem taking down 2 ordinary Titans. Naturally, they were supervised by Levi and Mike. The 7-meter Titan had been captured alive on the other side. The Titan was almost dismembered by Captain Levi, its arms were cut off and its leg muscles were also damaged. The Titan that wanted to bite was cut in the jaw. The process was very violent. Oruo Brossard and Petra along with the others helped to suppress the Titan. Although the Titan's ability to repair is amazing, when it is damaged in this way, its healing is limited. Takashi, who watched the battle like everyone else, learned something. His uncle Levi is very strong in both speed and strength. If he had chakra in his body he would be unstoppable. Levi's combat experience is very rich, the movement timing is very precise and there are almost no additional actions in his attacks. In terms of cutting Titans, his overall strength is higher than the current Takashi. But Takashi is not frustrated, he is not looking to outdo everyone, he is looking to gain enough strength to eliminate his enemies. He knows better than anyone that as long as he does not die, he can be the strongest in this world. His uncle, with a short stature, has better mobility and speed with the three-dimensional maneuvering equipment, so if you want to be strong, a short stature is ideal. At that time, Mike also attacked the 5-meter-tall Titan. The Titan didn't realize that he had fallen into the firing point. Whoosh! Mike rushed out from a building at high speed with the help of his three-dimensional maneuvering equipment. Shoo! Mike and his squad moved beautifully, with one swift motion cutting the tendons of the Titan's foot with a quick slash. The Titan's body leaned forward and suddenly fell to the ground with a thud, raising a cloud of dust. The Titan unconsciously braced itself with its hands wanting to stand up. However, at that moment Nanabar and the other soldiers, who were waiting nearby, moved down with their three-dimensional maneuvering equipment and slashed in different directions at the Titan's body. The soldier named Michael slashed the Titan's arm with a powerful force. Zburst! The Titan, which was holding half of its body with its hands, fell to the ground. Almost at the same time, the other members came down from the ceiling and made a few more cuts. This time the Titan had completely lost the mobility of his body. Of course, as long as the Titan did not have the back of his neck cut off, the injuries could heal in a while, but it was obvious that the Survey Corps was ready for this problem. Thomas, under Mike's orders, fired a flare into the sky. In an instant, more than 20 soldiers who had been waiting in the vicinity of the target ran up with the tools and began to restrain the Titan. Many of the tools here were invented by Zoe. In order to have enough time, Mike cut the Titan once more before he could repair its body. Takashi, naturally, also paid attention to the performance of Mike's squad. Under normal circumstances, it can be said that Mike's way of cutting Titans is perfect. Some people know how to perform attacks very well, which is related to their rich experience, timing control and quick action. It can be said that the members of Mike's squad are not inferior to the members of Levi's squad, but the difference of the captain's power is too big, which raised the value of Levi's squad one level higher. Captain Mike is already the strongest among normal people, but he is still a little inferior to Levi. Today's harvest was good. Takashi learned some skills and methods from seeing how the Survey Corps dealt with the Titans. If he doesn't die early, from now on he can only become stronger through accumulating experience. He is used to learning from others. As long as he knows a skill that can be used, he doesn't mind copying it and then using it himself. This is also one of the reasons why he is now so strong. The capture of the Titans alive went smoothly, no one was hurt and everything was done successfully. Takashi looked at Captain Zoe, who was walking towards the Titan that had just been captured alive. "Wait, squad leader, you're too close." Marblet Burner stopped Hange, who was about to enter the Titan's mouth. "It's okay, don't worry, these two guys are good and won't eat me, I think we'll get along just fine." Zoe withdrew the hand that was holding her and looked at the Titans very excited. They were all now very tired. After catching the Titans, Marblet Burner had to keep an eye on Hange, who was always fidgeting. It was useless to try to persuade her. It was good that Zoe was not allowed to capture a Titan alive, but a few months ago, Survey Corps soldiers discovered the notes left by a female soldier and started the Titan capture operation that had not been done in 15 years. This time Zoe had to be careful, she must not make a mistake and kill the Titans wrongly. For now, it can only be said that these Survey Corps people are really strange. The Titans in the Trust district have been cleared and 2 of them have been captured alive. At this point, the battle is really over. Takashi killed another 6 Titans today, his record surpassed 20 Titans killed. Even in the Survey Corps, this is something to brag about. However, there are still many follow-up issues to be dealt with, such as cleaning up the battlefield and collecting the remains of the soldiers, which is estimated to take another day or two. Then there is the relocation of the residents temporarily placed at Rose's Wall, as well as Aaron's trial, regiment selection, etc. Anyway, now the good days are over. Chapter 72, The Sword. On the third day after the Titans entered the Trust district, the sun came out as usual, the sky was clear and cloudless. Every day the weather was good, but not every day there is a good mood within the walls. When it is time to clean up the battlefield, to put it in an ugly way, the corpses of the comrades who died in this bitter war for humanity must be picked up. Early in the morning, the newly graduated soldiers from the south gathered in an open space under the Rose Wall. 5 years after humanity suffered an attack on humanity, the colossal Titan attacked again, and this time knocking down the Trust district gate. After the operation evacuation of civilians on the first day and the reconquest in the afternoon were difficult times. Not to mention the elimination operation, only no more than 160 soldiers were left out of the originally graduated 227, a very high mortality rate. On the second day of war, only Takashi participated in the battle to eliminate the remaining Titans and ensure that the dead did not increase. A soldier from the garrison troops shouted to all the remaining soldiers who had just graduated. "We have good news. Yesterday we cleared out the remaining Titans from the Trust district and successfully regained the territory lost to the Titans." "Great, we were finally able to win," shouted someone full of joy. "Franz Kefka, did you get a good look at him? We won." Hannah covered her face and burst into tears with mixed feelings. "Those damn Titans have finally been eliminated." Jean Kirstein said. There was still no word from Marco. He was anxious and refused to believe he had been injured. Many of the newly graduated soldiers had tears in their eyes. "These last 2 days have been too difficult, and even sleeping was a difficult task." After saying that announcement, the face of the soldier of the garrison troops turned grim and he remarked, "Although we won this time, we also lost many good soldiers. 2 days have passed and the remains of the dead must be collected immediately. Your task this time is mandatory. If you recognize someone who has not yet been identified, remember to report the name of the deceased and some other information you know. We need to create a list of the casualties." Suddenly, the slight joy fell silent and everyone in the place could not hide their sadness. Some of the people who had trained together for years, even if they had a good or bad relationship, were still in the cold streets of the city without being able to reunite with their loved ones. A group of soldiers from the garrison troops wore masks and entered the Trust district through the Rose Wall gate. Now the people are still positioned behind the Rose Wall. The whole Trust district looks a bit desolate and in ruins, some houses collapsed and others just damaged. Blood stains can be seen all over the buildings and remains of debris can be found everywhere. It is not uncommon to find body parts killed by the Titans. "I'm sure old Aldous took my sword in the evacuation of the civilians. What bad luck." Takashi, who was wearing a white mask and special gloves, was walking in the street in silence. From time to time, he could see some personnel passing by with the bodies of soldiers on stretchers. Today he was just passing by the street where Aldous' blacksmith shop was located. After handing him the sword to increase its sharpness, he didn't have time to pass by again. After the Titans invaded the city, he heard nothing more about the old man and his sword. On the way, he saw Hannah, sobbing as she watched Franz's corpse being laid out. She cried and told Franz's identity information, while the medical staff holding a notebook was jotting down the information. Takashi recalls that 2 days ago, when he was covering the civilian retreat, he came across Hana, who was shocked, and the only thing he could do at that moment was to place Franz's body in a safe place. Takashi did not go ahead to comfort her. He was not feeling well after all. Wandering down the lonely street, he arrived at Aldous' blacksmith shop only to see an empty store. Apparently he had escaped with the others. Just as he was about to leave the store, he found a small note behind the door. Takashi took the note and read it silently. Dear customer, I am sure you are looking for your sword. If you read this and I haven't given you your sword yet, it means I have died. Right now the Titans have invaded the city. I am on my way to look for you to give you this very special sword. If I fail to personally deliver this sword to you, you must seek me out and take care of burying my body. The sword was the first sword that a warrior who was nicknamed the Son of a Titan had. This sword is strong and will be able to help you in many battles. Thank you for trusting me and letting me touch such a famous sword. Takashi's hands shook. He felt an electric shock go through his entire spine, and in a matter of seconds he ran out of the smithy. At great speed, he ran through all the streets, and not far away he found some soldiers from the garrison corps pulling up an old man wearing a worn suit with a long sheath between his hands. Every step Takashi took, he felt something inexplicable move inside him. He didn't want to see the old man's face, but the evidence was more than enough to know who that person was. Stop! Shouted Takashi in a hoarse voice. What's wrong? Do you recognize this person? It's still unbelievable that with the evacuation operation, he didn't have time to retreat, said a soldier in a flat voice. I just... Takashi walked over and uncovered the old man's face, only to look at old Aldous with a slight smile on his cold face. Removing the mask from his face, Takashi looked sadly at old Aldous on the gurney. Hey soldier! Don't take off your mask, it's dangerous. Don't you know how many diseases he can get just by breathing in this place? The other soldier slapped his partner to calm him down. After looking at Takashi's face, they knew what it was about: the strongest recruit who faced numerous titans. Old man, why did you go looking for me just to give me my sword? Takashi held the sword in his hands and then took a necklace that was on the neck of Aldous' corpse. His name is Aldous, Takashi said slowly. Aldous. Okay, I'll write it down, said the soldier attentively. Okay then. Takashi got up from the ground and put his mask back on. Now, every step he took felt heavier. We'll take care of carrying him. Thank you for your help, cadet, said the soldier in a calm voice. Takashi walked aimlessly, then he met Annie on the street, and at her feet was the corpse of a girl. Mina Carolina, a black-haired girl who liked to tie her hair in a pair of pigtails, but she also died here. Annie had a guilty, pained expression on her face. She kept thinking of words of apology. The wall was shattered by Bertholdt's kick. Though not by her hands, she was just as guilty as the rest. Sensing someone approaching, Annie fell silent. Takashi approached and saw Mina's body on the ground. Her face was cold as frost. According to Amin, she died along with her whole squad. Her death was by fall. Takashi, please help me. Call me Captain Takashi and I'll help you down. Takashi looked at Annie, who was equally at a loss. Their eyes met for a few seconds. I rarely see you like this. Takashi hugged Mina's body. In his impression, Annie always had an expression of indifference towards anything. I'm not as indifferent as you think. The blonde-haired girl lowered her head, unable to see his face clearly. You know, I thought I could save everyone. I had this false dream that just by being strong, I could save everyone. I didn't feel deplorable until I picked up the corpses of everyone I knew. Takashi said with a cold expression. Annie said, at least you know you're giving your all, you mustn't forget that. After a while of silence, Takashi hugged Mina and walked away. All I know is that from now on I will see many of my friends die without me being able to do anything. Annie looked at Takashi's back. She herself tried to kill him, but strangely he survived. Looking at his white hands, she looked at Marco and Mina's blood on her hands. Don't forget, Takashi will cut them to pieces and someday we will get revenge. Annie sat on the lonely street, her face was full of tears. She finally understood why Raina and Berthold were so fake playing the soldier game. Maybe it's the only way to forget everything temporarily. She had ridiculed Raina before, but thinking about it now, he was only consoling himself. At this point, Annie has decided that by joining the military police, she will try to capture Eren. There is no value in staying in this place if there is no sign of the founding Titan. After putting Mina's body in place, Takashi saw Armin, who was holding another body. Unconsciously, Takashi, who was a bit dazed, walked towards a big ball of flesh wrapped in transparent yellow jelly, and Sasha was pale at the corpse mixed inside that thing. Sasha's voice trembled and he asked with a pale face, "What is this?" Titans don't have digestive organs. Whoever eats to fill their stomach will spit it out to eat humans again," said a soldier. Takashi also felt a little nauseous. The human remains in the ball spat out by the Titan were tangled together and could not be identified at all. He patted Sasha on the shoulder. "Come on, if you want to eat something tonight without giving it back." Ouch! Sasha vomited directly. Takashi sighed and helped Sasha away, not recovering until some time later. Cough, Takashi, why do you look so calm? Are you feeling sick? Dasha asked weakly, covering her mouth with her hands. Well, I guess I stopped feeling normal since the cleaning started. Takashi looked at Sasha expressionlessly. Sasha was surprised. This is hell. I thought it was dangerous to fight yesterday, but now I think there's no escape. Takashi leaned against the wall. Really? In fact, I can't understand your obsession with food. After a moment of silence, Sasha said, "You should know that I joined the army just to eat enough food. Now that we've graduated, if it weren't for the Titan attack that knocked down the gate, we would have made a regimental selection by now. Now we'll pick a regiment in a few days." "Where are you going?" Takashi asked. Sasha's face was a little blank. "I don't know, I really want to go home." "It seems like you haven't been home for 3 years. If you get a chance you should go back and take a look around, your father should be worried." Without another word, Takashi turned and left. Now he felt the real pain of belonging to this world. He had no family but he suffered just like anyone else in this place. As for his uncle Levi, Takashi knew it would be best for both of them if their relationship slowly grew closer. Now all he will do is move on, fight for what he couldn't save. There were many dead around, corpses that could not be made whole at all. Jean found his friend, many others only found a hand or a foot. If Eren and Takashi didn't have special abilities, both would have died. Who knew that those who wanted to eliminate all Titans survived only by inhuman powers? The work of collecting the remains went on for a whole day, and soon they will be cremated in batches to those who have not been identified. Many others will also be cremated in the same way. They can only say one thing: may the warriors who gave their lives for a noble act rest in peace. Chapter 73, Eren's Trial. On the 5th day after Eren became a Titan and sealed the gate of the Trust district, a big man arrived from the inner city and Eren's trial was about to begin. Early in the morning, Takashi and the others were having breakfast. Although the atmosphere was sad, everyone tried to maintain a normal atmosphere. Jean sat down on a chair, took a bite of bread bitterly and said to the person next to her, "Hey, you know how many people call that idiot with a hero complex as the savior?" Connie rested his chin on his hand and said faintly, "A savior sounds great. Many are taking confidence that you can retake the Maria Wall with his power." Sasha's eyes lit up and she suddenly thought, can you eat meat every day when you become a savior? She thought too much about that title. Eren was a human with the ability to become a Titan. Very few people could consider him a source of light. These days, Eren was eating food under a prison and was insulted by the military police regiment all that time. Now so famous, maybe he will be recorded in the history books. That's already something amazing. Many people can only die in corners who nobody cares about. Jean said as he remembered his friend Marco Bot. Armin, who kept a tense expression, remarked, "I'm afraid that's not a good thing. That will bring big trouble to Eren's trial. People in high places or in the Gendarmerie Corps won't want someone with that reputation. Not only that, Eren's power can't be under the control of any corps and to put it simply, Eren is a very dangerous factor." Takashi thought to himself and said, "Well, in Eren's situation everything is bad." Sasha looked at Eren and asked, "Is it that bad?" Takashi shook his head and explained, "Not so much, even though I don't have an opinion about Eren and his situation. I hope it's the best not only for Eren, but also for humanity." That's true. If humanity needs a savior in order to win our war, it means that all powers combined may be less powerful than him, and when humanity has to rely on the power of one person to be saved, it proves that we are in a dangerous situation. After saying that, Takashi continued eating his breakfast. Jean put her hand to his forehead and chuckled, "Ha, Takashi, you're right. But why did you suddenly become a serious man? Didn't you talk jokingly all the time before?" You also have to know all that Takashi had experienced. He not only lost friends, but also somehow feels responsible for that. Those who sweat more now, will bleed less in the future. If you don't push yourself, you don't know the most you can take. Unbeknownst to Jean, Sasha stole a loaf of bread from her plate. Ha ha. Connie and Sasha laughed, Armin couldn't help but chuckle, and Mikasa snorted softly. Before everyone could speak further, soldiers from the military police regiment arrived and asked Takashi, Mikasa and Armin to serve as witnesses in today's trial. The two military police soldiers were arrogant, raised their heads slightly, looked superior and looked at people as if they were inferior to them for fear that someone would not recognize their status. Takashi smiled slightly and followed Armin and Mikasa along with the two military police soldiers. Not only the three of them were summoned, but also Rico and Ian, the survivors of the first operation, were called to the trial to serve as Eren's witnesses. Eren's situation is very special and military trials are usually not so special. This time a special trial was held on the general opinion of the whole army about Eren. The commander of the three military divisions, the highest rank of humanity's army, Darius Zackley will have the final decision on Eren's fate. At this point, Eren had not yet been mentioned, and Takashi who was in the courtroom looked around curiously. Many people came, more than 20 people from the civilian class, more than 20 people from the business class, and soldiers from lower to higher ranks from the three army corps. Pixis, the supreme commander of the garrison corps, was present, followed by some members like Rita, Anka and Gustav. The head of the gendarmerie, Nile Doc, was also present, as well as some of the senior military commanders of the military police. The Survey Corps was also present with Commander Erwin Smith. Next to him was Takashi's uncle Levi, as well as some elites of the Survey Corps. And the wall cult could not be missed, arriving with some priests, led by Father Nick. It could be said that all classes of any nature were present, and this special conference that will decide the fate of Eren Giga, a soldier with the ability to become a Titan, will be under the evaluation of the commander of the 3 military divisions, Darius Zackley, who holds the position of judge. Darius Zackley is known to be the supreme commander of the 3 army corps. On the surface, he maintains a mind focused on solving problems as quickly as possible. This trial focuses on politics. He will personally judge the problem and what is at stake. If he feels that Eren's existence does more harm than good, he will not hesitate to execute Eren. Now, Commander Darius Zackley is sitting in the supreme seat of the court at the moment. Because he is focused on solving problems, he didn't care about his attire in this trial. For the moment, dressed in a white t-shirt, his hair was grey as was his mustache and beard. Without anger or pride, he maintained a serene expression throughout. It can be said that on the surface, no one would have guessed that this person is actually an old man with twisted thoughts. This person is actually an old artist. After all, he wouldn't mind doing anything to make those nobles who only think of themselves pay. Darius Zackley, he is willing to do everything possible that his abilities allow him, not for humanity, and his actions were not full of drama. After all, with his position, Darius Zackley has seen the worst that hide these walls and the true face of the nobles. After a while, Eren was led handcuffed towards the center of the room. The savior had been having a hard time recently. Eren was accused of many things that until recently he had known. He was on the verge of mental collapse. After 2 military police soldiers brought him in, Mike noticed that Eren's smell was different. He remembers it was different from when he first met him. When Eren was crouched down and handcuffed to an iron bar, the trial officially began. The commander of the 3 military corps, Darius, in a white t-shirt said, "Okay, let's begin. You are Eren Giga, right?" Darius Zackley asked and said, "You are a soldier who pledged to dedicate your life to the king. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir," Eren Giga said. "You are an exceptional case. It is outside the bounds of common law, therefore, we convene a special court. The final decision will be rendered by me, and we will also deliberate whether you live or die." After saying that, Darius Zackley asked, "Do you have any objections?" "None, sir," Eren replied matter-of-factly. "I'm glad you're so cooperative." Darius Zackley said, "Let me tell you this bluntly. Hiding your existence has proven to be impossible. Unless we take matters into our own hands about your existence, we will have to face a new threat in addition to the Titans. This court has the task of deciding which force will have custody of you, the military police or the Survey Corps. First, let's hear the military police's proposal." Next, Military Police Regimental Chief Niall Dock and Erwin Smith of the Survey Corps stated their plans for dealing with Eren. The Military Police Corps thought that after examining and surveying Eren's body, executing him would be seen as the highest honor Eren could get after his death. Captain Erwin of the Survey Corps proposed that Eren join the Survey Corps and use or rely on Eren's power to take back the Wall of Mary. People from both sides argued, and people from the merchant class, the civilian class and the cult also talked. The cult personnel on the ramparts are nothing but trash. They hate the Survey Corps and all those who want to damage the walls. After all, whoever wants to touch the wall, they can't get along with any of their cult. Eren, who blocked the gate, was accused by Father Nick. They also did not allow the garrison regiments to reinforce the city walls. The merchants said they would block the gates of the various cities in the walls and called them idiots. In short, only they can understand the greatness of God, and the miracle of the walls cannot be defiled. Everyone insisted on their own opinions, and the trial was discussed all the time. The difference from the original situation was that Eren did not lose control after becoming a Titan in the Battle of Reconquest, nor did he strike Mikasa 3 times. Therefore, the military police had to do something else. The head of the military police regiment, Nile Doc, held up a piece of paper and said aloud, "Eren Giga has serious violent tendencies. According to our investigation, he and his friend Mikasa Ackerman at a young age killed 3 adults, 2 were said to have been killed by Eren and 1 by the Ackerman girl. Although it can be understood as a justifiable defense, their character is really questionable. Should we put our talents, funds, and fate in the hands of such people?" Moreover, during the Battle of Reconquest, he stood still and did not obey orders. As soon as these words came out, there was a commotion in the room. Eren and Mikasa's faces were ugly. This experience was not pleasant. They have nothing to attack Eren with. This is worthless, and in everyone's eyes, it means nothing for Eren's future. Takashi thought to himself. Chapter 74, The Future. I agree, how could a child kill 2 grown men? He must be a demon off the wall. If he's a monster, maybe his friend is a Titan too. Yes, he must be executed as soon as possible. Darius Zackley looked at the recovery operation report in his hand and patted the table. Silence. Who is Mikasa Ackerman? Mikasa on the witness stand stepped forward. It's me. Everyone looked at her. Darius Zackley looked at Mikasa and asked, did that really happen? Mikasa's expression was wavering a bit and she finally said, yes, sir. Indeed, they must be soldiers trained by the enemy outside the wall since childhood. No wonder the other Titans that have attacked humanity are also monsters hiding in the skin of a human. That's right, otherwise how could a child of no more than 10 years old kill those adults? Maybe she's a Titan too. After thinking for a moment, he tapped the table to signal everyone to be quiet. Darius didn't voice his opinion on the matter and continued, who is Takashi Ackerman? Takashi stepped forward, it's me. Darius looked at Takashi and pointed out, the report says that Eren Giga remained motionless after he became a Titan. You mentioned that you woke him up and stabbed him twice in the back. Are there any details you want to share? Takashi kept a cold expression. Sir, Cadet Eren Giga was called many times in his Titan form. Nothing is certain, but quite possibly that grogginess is because he was exhausted or still unaware of his newly discovered ability. He didn't react to normal words, and just by stabbing him I was able to create a stimulation in his body. But my words were what woke Eren up, not an attack action. Eren could only react when I told him about our dream, to kill all the Titans and rid humanity of those enemies. It was only then that he took action on the operation. As Takashi finished the words, he stopped talking. He wasn't trying to defend Eren publicly, but tried to be as neutral as possible in his explanation. Darius pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, you have contributed much to this battle, Cadet Takashi Ackerman, tell me your opinion. With all due respect, sir, I think your answer is more than obvious. Nile Doc interjected and said, we can't go by his words, he was the one who also defended Eren when he was about to be killed. Chief Nile Doc, am I asking for your opinion? Cadet Takashi Ackerman, he gave his all on the battlefield being just a newly graduated soldier, I think he deserves that. Darius Zackley's eyes glanced slightly at Nile Doc and he stopped paying attention to him. Everyone present was a little surprised. You should know that there are a lot of senior commanders gathered here. The identity of recruit Takashi Ackerman has nothing to say even if he is an excellent soldier and has a lot of merit in the previous battle. There was some surprise on Takashi's face and he was slow in his response, but once he thought about it, he was direct. Sir, Eren Jiga's nature is still a mystery, but if there is one thing we are sure of, it is his determination to keep fighting even in his Titan form. You can ask all the cadets and soldiers who fought on the front lines, none were injured by Eren in his Titan form. If his nature was dangerous to my comrades, rest assured he would not be in this trial being judged. With a determined look, Takashi noted, if we won a quick victory in this battle it was because of the wise decisions of Commander Pixis and Eren. Their existence can be used to lead to a better future for humanity within the walls. Mr. Nile Doc's words have no relation to the true value Eren Jeja can offer humanity. He may even be the first potential warrior our humanity can have as a final defense against the Titans. Not only the gendarmerie members suddenly became agitated, but also the cult members on the ramparts shouted frantically. And before Nile Doc could say anything, a member beside him couldn't help but shout, "Soldier, pay attention to his identity. We've checked him out, his last name is the same as that Ackerman girl. I can't believe it, you two are just recruits, but you can easily kill a dozen Titans, maybe you're a Titan too." That sounds like a very dangerous statement to me, sir. Takashi looked blankly at those who slandered him. He touched the necklace around his neck. After taking it from Aldous' body, he discovered that it was some kind of sharp crystal, a very unfamiliar material. Cut. With a slow movement, Takashi cut the palm of his hand. Takashi raised his hand and blood spurted from the wound, staining his whole hand red. Ignoring everyone's shock, Takashi looked at the military police officer who accused him at this moment. "I heard that Eren can turn into a Titan with just one bite. Did my blood evaporate or do you think I turned into a Titan?" Takashi knew that this didn't prove anything, but those present have no understanding of Eren's power, so this would scare them and they would stop talking nonsense. The gendarmerie soldier looked at Takashi's dead, expressionless face and couldn't help but feel afraid, not knowing what to do for a moment. It's not just him. On the stand, Armin, Mikasa, Ian and Rico along with Eren felt shocked. Not everyone can stab their own body so calmly because it actually hurts. It could be said that Eren is a bit aggressive, and he shows no hesitation with himself when he bites his hand. Takashi's acquaintances, such as Pixis, Levi, Captain Kitz, had different expressions, and many people in the Survey Corps were shocked. The bishops, businessmen and civilians stopped talking and were a little surprised because they had never seen someone cut their hand so normally. Seeing that everyone was speechless, he took the opportunity to defend himself against the accusations. "Gentlemen, I am a new recruit who pledges allegiance to the king. My death and presence will be insignificant, but I promise that my determination to defend these walls from enemies is unsurpassed. Whether or not Eren Jiga is one of them, what does it matter? I will kill them all if I have to, and they must at least respect the memory of the soldiers who died holding that belief." Looking at Darius Zackley, Takashi said with a military salute, "That will be all, sir." Many people from the Garrison Corps and Survey Corps who were present agreed with that statement. Eren, who was silent, was moved by Takashi's words. He felt bad for being treated like a monster during this time. Takashi now remained silent. He knew he went too far with his words, but at least he made a clear determination. That doesn't take away that Eren is a monster. The safest course of action is to execute him. Metal sound. No. You're wrong. Up to this point, You've only been doing pure speculation and only saying what suits you. What? What was it you said? Eren, who hadn't spoken, looked up and said, well, you guys have never seen a Titan in the first place, so why are you so afraid? If those with power don't want to fight, then what's the point? If everyone is afraid to fight, why survive? Let me use my strength. You are just cowards. Eren looked at everyone and shouted, shut up and do as I say. The atmosphere suddenly became chilling. Many people at the scene were a little scared and their faces were pale. Point at him, said Nildoc ordered immediately. But before the military police team raised their weapons, Captain Levi of the Survey Corps was not known when he appeared at their side. Bang! Levi's sidekick smashed into Eren's face, and from the sight of it everyone could feel his pain. Now, Eren's mouth was bleeding and one of his teeth flew out. Levi showed no mercy and didn't even stop, punching Eren again and again without hesitation. Mikasa on the witness stand was furious, her eyes widened, her expression turned fierce, and she was about to go in to stop him. Armin grabbed her arm and Takashi also held her shoulder. Takashi knew very well that this beating was necessary, and his uncle had to do it so that Eren would be sent to the Survey Corps. If you want us to win this trial, you must stay in your place, Takashi warned in a cold voice. Lions and tigers were scary if they were free, but once imprisoned, they were nothing more than a spectacle to people. Eren can become a Titan, which is far more terrifying than any beast in the animal kingdom. Everyone must feel that Eren must be bound by a strong and sturdy chain, and Levi can be that chain. Even Takashi knows he's not qualified. He currently doesn't have that kind of prestige to replace his uncle. Bang! Pfft! The paws were quick. Eren glared angrily at Levi, but in return for a few more punches from Levi, Eren was finally subdued. Mikasa on the witness stand was shaking with anger, looking at Levi, who kicked Eren hard, with a killing expression on his face. Takashi's eyelids trembled. He felt that Mikasa might jump at any moment if he didn't hold her tightly now. As for Eren's feeling of being kicked right now, well, I think he finally got it. Chapter 75, Kit's Sincerity. I have a hypothesis, said Levi. I think pain is the best education. What this cadet needs is not verbal education but punishment, and that position is more comfortable to educate him. After saying that, no sound could be heard from the people in the courtroom, only the sounds produced by the beatings. Some people were already sweating on their foreheads and were terrified. They thought the beating would make that monster angry. Nildoc, the head of the military police regiment, swallowed saliva and said, "Wait, one moment, Levi. What do you want?" Levi asked as he paused. "It's dangerous, tell me, what will you do if it gets angry and transforms?" Nildoc asked. "Burst." "But what are you saying? Besides, you guys want to dissect his body, don't you?" Levi grabbed Eren's hair and lifted his head. Everyone could see Eren's bruised nose and bloody face. Takashi took a deep breath. He felt that beating was very hard. Levi said coldly, "When this damn brat transformed, he managed to kill 20 damn Titans until he fell limp. Considering his intelligence, if he were to become our enemy it would be a problem, but all the same he is no match for me. So tell me, what are you going to do? Those of you who want him to disappear think twice. Are you really capable of killing him?" Levi asked seriously. After Levi finished his words, Commander Erwin Smith of the Survey Corps raised his hand and said, "Supreme Commander, I have a proposal." Darius Zackley asked calmly, "So, what is it?" "Eren's power is uncertain, that makes him a constant threat." We can take advantage of that. For example, let's investigate outside the walls of Aaron's power under Levi's supervision. Take Aaron outside the walls?" asked Darius Zackley thoughtfully. "Yes, I would like Aaron to control his Titan power and use it for the benefit of humanity." Commander Erwin Smith said, "Cadet Aaron Giga could be judged depending on the results." Darius Zackley said, "Private Aaron would have to be watched. Tell me, Captain Levi, can you do that?" Levi, standing in front of Aaron, looked at Supreme Commander Darius Zackley and said, "I'm sure I could try, but if I get to kill him, I won't take any responsibility." Darius nodded and made a decision. "Well, I've made a decision. As of now, Aaron Giga will be turned over to the Survey Corps under Levi's inspection. I'm calling this meeting to a close." Shortly after the conclusion of the trial, the commander of the 3 military divisions Darius stood up and left immediately. Niall's expression was unbelievable, and then he realized that he had suddenly been pushed out of Aaron's reach. Niall Doc, who missed the chance to have Aaron in his hands, gave Takashi and Levi a mischievous look. He would always remember this bold recruit who declined to go against him. Although very reluctant, everything had been decided. Now he can only leave with the people of the military police regiment, and as for the others, they also left. On the surface, this matter seems to have a result, but behind the scenes there are dark moves and intentions were not good. All these opinions and thoughts will explode with a single spark. The commander of the 3 divisions Darius arrived ready to solve this problem as soon as he could. He also discovered that the reaction of the nobles towards Aaron was wrong. He better than anyone else understands what it means to be being lectured by the nobles in exchange for the power he currently has. Now that he is old, he doesn't know how many more years he can live. Therefore, he wants to do something great before he retires. He was very interested in the objectives of the Survey Corps. And when he met Erwin, he was impressed by Erwin, not only his story but his values and how far he is willing to go to accomplish his goals. He who protected his life even before humanity, wanted to at least give his best for those who want to fight, to do so with all the strength that can be bestowed upon him. Darius Zackley hates the regime. Maybe sometime he will take action against them, but for the moment, his only responsibility is to maintain a beneficial balance for the future within the army. As commander of the 3 divisions, he understands that there is no one better than the Survey Corps people to do the job. No matter what they look like, even if they are just recruits with such arrogant and brave aspirations, all those in the Survey Corps are worthy of his respect. Darius Zackley is calm, and if he can do anything to support the investigation outside the wall, he will do everything in his power. And those noble ones, they just have to wait. Not to mention Darius' hidden plans, which it was only a matter of time before they would shine. A kind person who changed a lot due to pressure from his family was ready to make a move. An independent division called Central Military Police was about to start operating. Kenny, on the other hand, expects nothing when joining this secret commando. His intentions are completely different. Across the ocean, Mali's top brass finally could not stand still. 5 years later, the 4 warriors sent at that time had not sent any news after starting the mission. Now, the patience of this operation had run out, and they began to organize to send another more experienced warrior, the Beast Titan. History begins to move and everyone's intentions are shown to be bolder than before. Soon there will be a change in everyone's life. The Survey Corps took Aaron and sent him to an old castle that was the headquarters of the Survey Corps inside the Rose Wall, a suitable place to take care of Aaron. With that, this matter came to an end, and tomorrow, the remaining soldiers will have to choose a regiment. There are 9 who can choose the military police regiment, another only has 2 choices like many of the others, being considered the strongest graduate cadet. Of course, all soldiers at least from the South have already seen the horror of the Titans. Those who dare to choose the Survey Corps are not just because they want to die, but because they want to keep fighting. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Takashi returned to the Garrison Corps station in Trust District. At this point, 5 days had passed since the recapture of the city. Both the soldiers of the garrison troops and the newly graduated soldiers had returned, and the people who had evacuated from the city also began to return one after another. Now the city is very hectic, cleaning up the streets and repairing the damaged houses. Many of the soldiers will soon move out of here. After selecting a corps, they will all go their separate ways. Even if they decide to join the garrison troops, they will not necessarily be in the same place. After all, garrison troops operate throughout the human territory within the walls. Of course, there may be some people who may stay in the Trust District. Aaron's trial lasted all morning and it was now 1 o'clock in the afternoon. In a courtyard, Kit's Whaleman and Takashi Ackerman sat on both sides of a table with bottles of fine wine. In the previous battle to clear all the Titans, Captain Kitz promised Takashi, the strongest bodyguard, that he would buy him a drink regardless of the previous resentment. As for the tiny casualties, Kitz didn't take it into account after Takashi killed that Titan in front of him. As a captain, he was busy a few days ago and barely had time to rest. Until today, the two of them had no alone time. Takashi was still a child, but knowing that death could come to him anytime, anywhere, Takashi tasted the wine without thinking about anything and said, "I'm about to choose a regiment, Captain. I hear you want to join the Survey Corps." Looking at the wine in his hand, Takashi was far from experienced to appreciate the true taste of a wine. Takashi nodded and didn't respond. To be honest, he didn't understand very well why Captain Kitz asked him to drink along with him. He thought it was all just words in the air. Picking up the bottle, Kitz poured himself a glass, and said, "A long time ago, when I was about to graduate from the training corps, I also thought of joining the Survey Corps to see the outside world. Later, I gave up because of persuasion from my family and friends. But I can swear that at the time I was feeling brave and determined, but in the end I listened to my parents and joined the Survey Corps so that my family could live in peace of mind. To be honest, what mother would want to receive just a pie? After that, I joined the garrison troops for many years and had never seen a Titan in my life. It wasn't until 5 years ago, a few days after the Titans broke through the Maria Wall, that I saw them for the first time, near the walls of the Trust District, and I can say I was horrified to see them." Bowing his head slightly, Kitz mocked himself, "My heart was frozen, my hands were shaking, but I still shouted to my subordinates not to be afraid. I told them that as long as they had the heart ready to sacrifice it for humanity, human beings would never lose." When the supply station was about to be occupied by Titans 5 days ago, I, who was in charge of the command at the supply station, got scared and left a bunch of recruits and ran away. Although this is part of the battle plan, this plan is mine alone. Takashi could look at the depression on Kitz's face. Maybe all that guilt would end up consuming his mind little by little. Kitz said, "The commander didn't punish me severely for that, but 2 days ago, when I saw the broken and bloody faces of all those recruits I abandoned, I finally realized that even if no one persuaded me back then, I wouldn't go to the Survey Corps because I'm really a coward. It's ridiculous, it took me more than 20 years to realize that I wasn't brave." Kitz looked at Takashi and said sternly, "Takashi, do you know, 5 days ago you ignored 2 decisions that were the opposite of mine. The first time was when you could retreat, but instead you decided to command an operation and commanded the ride to the supply station with soldiers trapped in the city. And the second time when I wanted to kill Eren Jaeger, you decided to save him. Kits said, "What's my problem? Is it about my cowardice?" Setting the glass of wine down on the table, Takashi looked at Captain Kits and said, "Do you think I have the answer? Many say to have respect for adults because of age, but that's not the whole meaning of that law. Respect is given to elders because of their experience, the things they have lived through and all they have learned. It doesn't just mean respect for being older and wiser. However, there are people who, regardless of their age, know, understand and see much more than any other adult." Kit slowly recovered after hearing the words and managed to regain her composure. She didn't say anything, just drank quietly. "Do you need me to comfort you, Captain Kits? Maybe you need a hug." After drinking the wine in the glass, Takashi looked at Kits, who was silent. Captain Kits scoffed, "Don't even say it, I don't need a child to comfort me yet. You were scaring me, I thought you had suddenly mistaken me for an old man," Takashi said with a slight smile. He couldn't forgive Kit's actions, but he wasn't someone who could judge him either. After 3 rounds of drinking, Takashi got up and left. Kits handed him a bottle of wine and then looked at Takashi's distant back and said, "If you die, I will take a bottle of wine to your grave to insult you without you noticing." Without turning around, Takashi just waved his hand. "Don't worry, you won't get that chance. My grave will be a monument." Chapter 76, A Farewell to the Stars. As night fell, the stars shone and the surroundings dimmed. There were numerous bonfires burning brightly in an open space. At night, after numerous attempts to recognize some soldiers, it was necessary to cremate those who could not be identified. Many days had passed and it was necessary to do it as soon as possible. Some of the families preferred to bury them in a cemetery, but not everyone had the resources and the time to do it. Some soldiers did not even have relatives, so they were cremated with the other soldiers. And even for those who wanted to bury their sons, it was a very complicated process due to the decomposition of the corpses. Takashi had made sure to do everything possible for Aldous to be buried. If it were not for the request he made to Commander Pixis, he would not have succeeded. In an open space, a group of cadets stood silently near the large flames. The light from the fire illuminated the surroundings, and a few people could be heard crying from time to time. Looking at these fires, the throbbing flames seemed to be burning inside Takashi's eyes. Connie was kneeling on the ground and burst into tears. He has always been an optimist. And his anger is because he couldn't do much in this war. He couldn't kill as many Titans as he wanted to. Takashi knows that they were all just children who had experienced the most horrible things that can be experienced in this world, and they all have the right to cry and feel unstable. Takashi felt that as time went by it became harder for him to show his true feelings. He couldn't be as visible as he was before. Looking at Jean, who was trembling as she clenched her fists, Takashi asked, "I guess you've decided to join the Survey Corps, right?" Holding a fistful of dirt in his hands, Jean lassoed a fist to the sky and said with determination, "Yes, just like you, I'm going to die too. I don't want to disappoint my friend with just ashes." Takashi looked at Jean with understanding. He too lost someone he didn't think he would take so much notice of, Aldous, a blacksmith. Minor, Franz, many soldiers had died, even Jean's friend Markobot, and Takashi could not be a hero to them. He still remembered when Markobot got in the way of the confrontation he had in the early days with Jean. Only now did he remember that many of those who died, lived, and many of those who died were still dying with no way to change their fate. Takashi regretted that the power of his eyes was so restricted by the life he lost, otherwise he would have made sure this would turn out differently. Many newly graduated cadets could not believe that such a smart and capable guy had actually died. In everyone's general opinion, Marco was a talented soldier. Although Takashi doesn't like to excel in intelligence, his observation is more than enough to pick up on the minute details he needs to accomplish his goals. But still, there were very few people who surpassed him in intelligence. Everyone had something special to excel in. Armin shone in intelligence, but his skill in the use of three-dimensional maneuvering equipment was insufficient to stand out. Marco on his side was a complete soldier. But he died in a very strange way. In Jean's words, no one watched Marco being killed by a Titan. There were no witnesses to his death, and the strangest thing that could be just a coincidence was that Marco's body was not completely devoured. If no one watched Marco being devoured, how come his body remained intact after a single bite? Takashi could intuit that quite possibly a soldier took out the Titan that had eaten Marco, and this same soldier was killed soon after. I think if Marco were alive and his best friend dead, he'd join the Survey Corps too. Takashi unscrewed the cap of the wine bottle in his hand. Huh? How are you sure about that? He had always dreamed of dedicating his life to the king. Jean's expression was uncertain and he himself didn't know what he was thinking. When Marco Bot was trained in the Corps, he dreamed of devoting himself to the king, and he really thought it was the most honorable thing in the world. So he aimed to become a military police officer. Takashi sighed and handed the wine to Jean. He was a very sensible person. If he knew what the hell the military police regiment was like, he wouldn't have thought that way. Taking the bottle of wine in Takashi's hands with surprise, Jean didn't know where he got it from, but now he didn't care to think about it. He took a long drink of wine and said, "Cough. Cough. You talk like you know the gendarmerie well." Yes, I had the opportunity to talk to many senior officers and I personally looked at the head of the gendarmerie regiment. Oh. Let's talk about it. After all, that was my dream, although I don't plan to go there now. Takashi was a bit surprised. He looked towards the others and they were also waiting for his answer. With a slight smile, Takashi said, "Senior officers say that the longer you spend in the military police, the more useless you become. No matter what your intentions are, you'll end up becoming a corrupt scumbag." After a pause, Takashi flashed a smirk. "The gendarmerie regiment's treatment is still good, just remember to be obedient and in the early years bear all the work the superiors leave only to you. Don't meddle in their affairs and don't let your stupid sense of justice explode, just turn a blind eye and you won't get into trouble. Make sure you get benefits that the seniors get, don't stop because of embarrassment. After a few years, some new recruits will come and you will become a senior. When the time comes, you can hand over the job to the recruits, and you can play cards, drink and enjoy life every day. Victims of victims, that's all." Everyone was stunned, not knowing what to say. Jean Kirstein was confused. This was really different from what he thought and not stupid at all. He could understand the meaning behind the gendarmerie regiment. Before he could ask anything, a cold voice came, "How do you know so clearly?" Following the voice, Takashi turned his head and saw Annie, the ice beauty who seemed to have no presence. She held out her hands and said, "A certain military policeman who spent 10 years being a scumbag told his friend. It's no secret either, if you go to the gendarmerie you'll find out quickly." Everyone was silent for a moment after hearing the words, although Takashi's words weren't too direct, but as long as they weren't too stupid, they could understand how corrupt that place was. Takashi looked at everyone and said solemnly, I don't want to say anymore. I will join the Survey Corps, but I won't persuade them to go to that place of death too. I will respect your decision. I personally recommend you to go to the safest place to protect your families. He took a step straight and walked to the blonde girl Annie aside. Hey, that means you can go to the gendarmerie regiment and remember not to mind other people's business. Annie will go to the military police regiment, very firm in her words and has no intention of changing her mind. To be honest, Takashi doesn't quite understand why she is so determined to live in the inner city if that doesn't seem to be her longing. Annie looked at Takashi expressionlessly. Do you think I'm the type of person with a strong sense of justice? Takashi shook his head. I don't know you very well, but you're good at being cold to people. How can you tell you don't understand the heart of a weak woman? Annie said in a calm voice. Ha ha, you should tell that to Eren. I understand women perfectly, especially Sasha. Takashi walked towards Sasha and extended his hand towards her shoulder. Ha! Sasha suddenly became nervous. Sasha loves food, just food. Takashi said calmly. Are you drunk? Connie showed a strange expression seeing Takashi like that. No, we just said goodbye, being the strongest of our group. Takashi said as he walked away from Sasha. You talk very seriously, you can smile now and then. Jean said with a blush on his face. I think he is drunk. Connie muttered. Ha 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 ha. Sasha scoffed at Jean's face at this point. What? What's wrong? Jean was puzzled by the situation. At this moment, Takashi was thinking about the exploration outside the wall. The battle against the female titan will be very dangerous. If he really needs to stop her, he has to consult with his uncle. It wouldn't be good at all to be exposed, but it wouldn't be good to see so many soldiers die either. If he gets the chance, he will definitely think about whether to eliminate the female titan once and for all. Takashi removed the bandage on the palm of his hand where the cut was made at Eren's trial. Looking at the scabbed wound, Takashi wiped the scab with his hand, revealing the tender white skin inside. Takashi's face was unsure under the firelight. In less than 8 hours, the wound that almost went through his palm was completely healed, and there was almost no scar left. Is it because of the chakra? Takashi had doubts about it. Chapter 77, A Piercing Scream. After that farewell evening, Takashi had a very long conversation with Sasha. Being from the same village, their relationship was very trusting. Sasha didn't know why, but she felt that Takashi understood her and somehow sought his help to keep her mind at ease and choose the right regiment to join. Hanzo's friends were visited tonight by 2 unknown people. It has been 6 days since the battle to recapture the Trust district. Early in the morning, the cadets remembered better than anyone else the glorious days gone by where they could be at ease. However, just as everyone was showing feelings of farewell and communicating with the people they will miss, something happened that shocked everyone. Sawney and Bean were killed. The 2 titans who served as research subjects that were captured by the Survey Corps were secretly killed at night. Everyone was about to pick a regiment and something incredible happened again. The famous 104th cycle of the training corps was connected with all the weird stuff. Although killing titans is not bad at all, the 2 titans captured alive are very valuable experimental subjects after all, and it is not easy for humans to capture titans alive. The bespectacled Survey Corps woman, an avid researcher on titans, Hanzo, rode on horseback from the Survey Corps headquarters to the Trust district. Behind her were many Survey Corps people from Levi's squadron, and Eren with a safety pin was also in the team. Last night, Eren had a long conversation after expressing a little curiosity about the Titans and then talked to the enthusiastic Hange-Zoe. She explained a lot about the Titan experiments. From night to morning, without sleep, without even taking any, Eren had no chance to do anything. If he hadn't heard that his beloved experimental subjects had died, he probably would have continued. At least now Eren knew why the older soldiers retreated when Hange-Zoe appeared. When Hange-Zoe saw the two Titans who had evaporated to the point that only a few smoldering bones remained, she cried so hard that everyone felt it was truly heartbreaking. Many felt confused, and Takashi, who was in the distance, looked at everyone in the surroundings in search of the mole. They all feel that Hange-Zoe is not someone they would want to relate to. Her performances with the Titans recently reinforced their thoughts. These two Titans were killed in the middle of the night last night. The soldiers on watch discovered the abnormality only after the first Titan was killed. After that, they could not look at anything because of the steam that was rising from the Titan's death. They could only see two swords slashing the other Titan's neck. A few soldiers from the military police regiment had already arrived and looked at all the soldiers with a piercing gaze. At first, the soldiers without a regiment were not thoroughly inspected. They only had to explain what they did last night to the few policemen who came to this place, all only to discover that no one was involved in this incident. For the past few months, the newly graduated cadets have been living in the Trust district and the dorms have been reassigned. Takashi, Nelson, Thomas and Connie live in a room for 4. Since they were all living, it took a while for the cops to inspect the whole place. Of course, no one knew this was done by Annie and the others, but the cops found nothing. After Hange-Zoe's strong request, everyone was checked again, now inspecting the three-dimensional maneuvering equipment, but nothing was found. Obviously, Reina and the others are very well hidden. When clearing the battlefield, it is not difficult to hide a three-dimensional maneuvering team. Of course, the criminals would not be too exposed to these inspections. Nelson, who do you think might be our enemy? Takashi suddenly asked. Nelson, who had just recovered, looked at everyone with wide eyes and said, if the enemy is among us, it may be from the garrison corps or the recruits who have not yet chosen a regiment. Yes, if there are no clues, they may all be suspects. Thomas kept a serious expression. After being wounded, he learned how important his participation in this battle was to defend his family's hometown. I'm glad they recovered. I thought they would be scared to death by the Titans. Takashi said jokingly. He had made a good relationship with these two people, at least he believed he could trust them. Takashi didn't know anything and couldn't find a clue, but Armin discovered that Annie had taught Marco's three-dimensional maneuvering equipment. Armin and Marco had a good relationship. They are both intelligent people and often discuss problems together. Armin is a bit skeptical, but instinctively did not want to believe that Annie is the enemy. Armin is much more sociable than Eren and has many friends. Mikasa likes him, Annie likes him, Mina likes him, and even Krista told Takashi that Armin is cute and gentle. That made Takashi feel a little jealous. He wasn't ugly, but he wasn't considered cute among the boys. Armin on his side is reluctant to believe that his friend Annie is the enemy. If only he would share this information with Takashi, Takashi could not have kept quiet. Thus, the morning's time was wasted in a long and tedious investigation. In the afternoon, Takashi simply began to pack some luggage, because he had already decided to join the Survey Corps, and would soon go to the castle that was the headquarters of the Survey Corps. Takashi doesn't really have much equipment, mainly some relics left by his parents, with a small ring, a comb and a brooch. Other than that, there is nothing else. Originally there was a small sum of money, but all the arrows were bought with Takashi's money. Although he and Sasha have been saving and recycling them when hunting, the arrows will also be spent. Now Takashi is someone very cool, indifferent to fame and fortune. He has done nothing in this world. Takashi packed his luggage, and it was only a small package. Nelson and Thomas had made a decision, stowing their luggage next to Takashi. Of the original 7th Squadron, Takashi now had doubts whether Yama and Krista would join the Survey Corps. As for his friends, it was his original intention. And now his roommate Connie these past few months, although Takashi didn't mind, he didn't want to press him on that topic which is apparently sensitive for him. In the afternoon, Takashi was silent as time passed. 2 hours later, Survey Corps people will come to recruit them, and those who stay where they are in the end will join Survey Corps. Among the 3 main corps, namely the Military Police Corps, the Garrison Corps and the Survey Corps, the Survey Corps is the only regiment that must take the initiative to recruit people. The other 2 corps need only wait in the office for recruits to arrive and apply for their official joining themselves. There was no need to come and make a speech. They are also not worried about people being snatched by other corps. Besides the training corps in the north, only about 60 soldiers from the training corps dare to join the Survey Corps in a year. It can only be said that the Survey Corps can still maintain a scale of about 900 people. On the other hand, in an ancient castle in Rose territory, Survey Corps soldiers prepared to leave for the Trust district. At this time, Levi and his squadron was about to leave for the Trust district again. Erdjin asked Eren, "Hey, newcomer, will anyone in this cycle volunteer to join our Survey Corps?" Eren thought for a moment. "I'm sure Takashi Ackerman will come, the others. It's hard to say now." Levi was a little surprised, but it was all obvious after having that conversation with him days ago. Originally, some people said they wanted to join the Survey Corps, but now, after experiencing the reconquest of the Trust region, Eren could only be sure that Takashi wouldn't be a coward and would definitely join without telling his friends. Oruo Brossard grimaced, that black-haired fellow who spoke arrogantly. "I already knew he would come." Many had impressions of Takashi. Mike and his squad had even seen him in action. Gunther Schultz looked at Eren and said, "That kid is a ruthless guy. I heard he stabbed you twice without hesitation." Petrarol, who had remained silent, said, "According to his background, he may even become as strong as a captain." Many mentioned that his level in combat was very rare, rarely seen in recruits. "Well, it's no big deal," Oruo Brossard said with a bitter expression. Petrarol looked at Oruo Brossard and pointed out, "I heard that he has already killed over 25 titans independently. It is estimated that he will surpass you in no time." Oruo Brossard's face turned pale. "All right, I admit that the kid is quite powerful. I heard Nanabar say a few days ago his whole squadron saw him in action imitating the moves Captain Levi does." Oruo Brossard is very depressed. He often likes to mention the titans he has killed because he hasn't really been in Levi's squadron for long, so after a while he liked to talk about the titans he had killed. Even in that meeting he told that recruit that he would teach him well once he will join Survey Corps. What a joke. Once Takashi enters the Survey Corps, he would have already killed more titans than him. Petra's eyes lit up. Can he really cut down titans like Captain Levi? Oruo Brossard was a bit helpless. "That's right, everyone in Mike's squadron has seen him, otherwise why would they mention it?" They were all discussing whether Takashi had been able to make similar cuts on Levi, not knowing that he was their captain's nephew. "What a waste of energy," Levi muttered with an indifferent expression. On one hand he was happy that his nephew was so strong, but on the other he didn't like the idea of him joining the Survey Corps. Chapter 78, Surrender Your Hearts. In the Trust district, in an open space, a group of soldiers about to join a regiment were discussing their future. Connie, who looked hesitant, looked at the silent Jean beside him and asked, "Jean, have you made up your mind?" Jean nodded, "Yes, I have decided to go to the Survey Corps." Connie said, "Didn't you want to sign up for the Gendarmerie Regiment? Is it because of Marco?" Many of the fellows who didn't know about the situation looked at Jean with surprise. They must have known that Jean had always said he wanted to become a military police officer. Jean interrupted Connie directly and said with disdain, "Stop talking nonsense. I didn't decide to join the Survey Corps for anyone. I also don't agree that the best soldiers should join the Survey Corps. Just like Takashi said, our life is ours alone. I'm not such an idiot, I just think it's good to join the Survey Corps." The idiot that bothered him was Aaron. He had to join to prove that he could be a good soldier too. Looking at Connie, Jean snorted softly, "Connie, didn't you come to serve as a soldier to prove yourself? Becoming a military policeman should impress your family. No one seems to be aware of the internal corruption. Don't change your mind because you heard some bad words from Takashi about the Gendarmerie Regiment." Connie flashed a bitter smile. In fact, he changed his goal several times throughout his stay in the training corps. A few days ago, he was determined to go to the Survey Corps. Connie shook his head, "I don't know why, but I suddenly feel that going to the gendarmerie is no longer appealing." Jean stopped talking and looked away. Sasha and Takashi were talking without paying attention to anyone else. Takashi looked at Sasha, who was leaning against the wall with her head down, and said, "Sasha, consider going to the military police regiment." Sasha raised her head and looked at Takashi with a surprised look. "What, are you asking me to join the military police?" She was so confused. Shouldn't Takashi persuade her to join the Survey Corps? With his thoughts flying, Takashi looked at Sasha and said, "Yes, the battlefield is very dangerous. Everything will become much more dangerous than any other time. You must have a calm mind when you decide to go with your father." Sasha was a little sad. "It's been 3 years since I wasn't with my father. Takashi, I still remember when I was hiding behind the trees and heard you tell me on numerous occasions that you wanted to hunt down all the titans so that everyone could go back to hunting in the forest." After saying that, Sasha paused a little and fixed, "But now the clan members are raising horses and farming. They have all abandoned tradition and chose to integrate with the crowd to be part of this world. Takashi, you don't need to convince me about which regiment I should join." Takashi touched his forehead and said, "I'm not good with my words, but it's just a matter of driving the titans out of the Mary Wall so that everyone will return to the forest again. I'm looking forward to finding that future." "Really? Then don't convince me to go to the gendarmerie. I don't want to go to that place. There are no friends of mine inside that regiment." "Friends? Are you sure about that? Didn't you know that if you go to the military police regiment, you can eat and drink tasty food? There will be meat." As if it was the temptation of a demon whispering, Takashi showed a mischievous look on his face. "What? Damn it, Takashi, you're really mean, don't tell me that." Wiping the exit from the corner of her mouth, Sasha raised her hands and looked at him frantically. Seeing that the situation was not good, Takashi slowly moved from the spot and pulled Connie to his side. In case Sasha was hungry, no one would know how to calm her down. He knew very well that when Sasha had food in her way, she was someone much more dangerous than the female titan. Her bites were truly painful. Time passed slowly. In the Trust district, the sky was slowly darkening. The torches beside the open spaces had been lit, the firelight shone on everyone's faces. No one wanted to talk now, everyone wanted to be quiet to calm their thoughts. Erwin Smith, commander of the Survey Corps, stood in front of everyone on the podium with his hands behind his back. He looked at the more than 100 soldiers in front of him. I am Erwin Smith, commander of the Survey Corps. Today, you will choose a military branch. Bluntly speaking, I'm here to convince you to join the Survey Corps. Everyone was a bit puzzled. Is it that simple? After a short pause, Erwin continued, during the previous Titan attack, I think everyone has understood their own strengths and limits after going through the Reconquest battle. The faces of many people suddenly became hard to look at. After 2 battles, a quarter of them died. This is still the case with the advantage of the terrain in the surrounding area. Erwin's voice was calm and he continued, however, this battle brought humanity the closest thing to a victory. Through the existence of Eren Jaeger, who by risking his own life, has proven himself, leaving no doubt that he is an ally of humanity. With his help, we will not only stop the Titans' advance, but also discover their true nature. We believe that in the basement of his home in Shiganshina, there are answers about the Titans that he himself does not have. If we can get to that basement, we will have a few clues so that we can end this century of Titan dominance. The soldiers below the podium suddenly became agitated and did not expect the truth to be so close. Many people even hesitated to contribute. So you think the enemies are in this place or nearby, a candy in the mouth to lure the prey. Takashi understood the purpose of making this information public. As Takashi understood, the march will start from Karane's district to retake Maria Wall and later Shiganshina district. All the established routes are completely invalid, so another way has to be found. And the sole purpose of why all new recruits must participate is simply to search for the enemy within the Allied ranks. Even though they already knew about this situation, many Survey Corps people were still very heartbroken when they heard this. The deaths inside the walls were unbelievable. Outside the wall everyone knew that survival would be much less. Looking at the information being presented by Petra and Mike, Erwin explained that the chances of survival were 30%, the death rate will be higher than the last 4 years. No one could stand to hear those solid words from the Legion commander himself. Who can stand that? Those who live will be the most powerful soldiers humanity has to offer. Ask yourselves if you really have the mentality to give your life for mankind. After saying that, Erwin Smith said, now you all know the situation of this division, all those who are willing to sacrifice, I ask you to remain in this place. Ask yourselves, will you consecrate your hearts in order to save all mankind? That's it, whoever decides to join another division can leave. Erwin waited silently for everyone to make up their minds. All those who have not left by then, would have officially joined the Survey Corps. As soon as the words fell, many of the soldiers hesitated for a moment, then turned to leave and the crowd dispersed. Takashi, who was standing a little behind the crowd, felt everyone's thoughtful feelings and truly accepted the decisions of each of these people. Takashi watched Annie leave. Berthold hesitated but still stopped. He also looked at Sasha and Connie who were shaking but still standing. Thomas and Nelson were sweating but still did not move. Takashi's expression remained the same. Looking at Yama and Krista, Takashi smiled seeing that they had no intention of moving. In this era, those who don't follow the trend may not necessarily be great men, nor can they achieve anything remarkable, but it takes courage to go against the grain. One Survey Corps soldier said to Erwin, "Captain, aren't you bullying the recruits too much?" Few people will join like this. Mike, Petra and the others also looked at Erwin. They knew they had rarely spoken so bluntly before, especially this time the training soldiers had seen the horror of the Titans. Erwin shook his head. Without saying much, Eren can become a Titan, which is an important fact in itself. Then there's Cadet Takashi, who has a hidden power that can decide the outcome of a battle. And the enemy that killed the experimental Titans is another important case. When Commander Erwin returned to the podium, there were 26 people scattered among the audience, including Takashi, Thomas, Nelson, Mikasa, Armin, Reina, Berthold, Jean, Connie, Sasha, Yuma, Krista, etc. With the exception of Annie, all of the top 10 trainees in the Southern 104th period joined the Survey Corps. Marco is dead and Eren has joined in advance. Erwin Smith walked forward, the firelight reflecting his face. He looked at all the people with different expressions. His face showed no emotion and asked coolly, "If I order you to die, will you die?" "We will not die, sir," someone shouted. "That depends on the order and the benefits." Takashi looked at Erwin on the stage and replied. Commander Erwin looked at Takashi, who was below the stage, smiled slightly and said loudly, "Everyone has a strong will. So now, I admit everyone here as an official Survey Corps member." The Survey Corps commander gave a military salute and shouted, "Surrender your hearts." Everyone in the audience returned a salute. "Yes. You have all endured the fear well, I accept your hearts." Erwin thought and said, "Prepare your luggage, we will meet first thing in the morning." Today officially, Takashi joined the Survey Corps. On the way back, the 26 Survey Corps recruits began to voice their thoughts. Thomas snorted nervously, "Survey Corps man, it's really bad and my family will have to live with the wrong idea all the time." "I won't let you die, buddy," Nelson said with a determined look on his face. He had changed all this time, he now had a mind set ready for what was to come. Armin persuaded, "It's not that bad, with Eren's power, we have a much better chance of getting Wall Maria back. If to get to the basement of Eren's house we need to seal the wall, it won't be an easy job even with Eren in his Titan form." Nelson disagreed that it would be easier, this will only speed up the process. Jean was very dissatisfied, "I hope that idiot works harder, I'm really ready to give it my all and I'm starting to believe that he is the hope of humans." Jean Kirstein is a young man who likes to tell the truth, he has his own way of speaking and is not afraid to hold back his words like Armin, he even believes that the other party is a submissive friend. Yuma, who was walking next to Krista like a protector, teased her friend and said, "Come on, if you were going to regret it, it's too late." "I'm not afraid, the one who's afraid is Jean," Krista said with a serious look. Jean looked at Krista, who had said she was afraid and turned around to complain, "I don't regret it." Yuma, "Which, if you're going to be complaining, you'd better defect now." Yuma snorted coldly and looked at Krista, "Jean, honey, I hope you're not the first to die." Even though I really wanted to be in the garrison, Krista insisted on staying and fighting with that crazy man who walks in front. It is obvious for whom that stone is intended. Takashi, who was walking along with Thomas and the others, replied, "Yuma, you're as wild as a Titan, no wonder you're just spouting bad words from your mouth." "Ha ha." Thomas couldn't help but wince with laughter. "Wow, ugly monkeys make noises too, Thomas, I thought you died in the Battle of Reconquest," Yuma said in a mocking voice. "Thomas, the funny thing is, we almost died," said Nelson with a strange laugh. There was a sudden silence in the surroundings. "That was straight, ha ha," Takashi said before cutting off his laughter dryly. My mood is broken. During the training period, Takashi, Yamit, Thomas, Nelson and Krista were members of Squad 7. Takashi was the squad leader and always openly argued with Yama. That Titan woman is very poisonous. Even if Takashi knew her secret, she would not hold back under any circumstances. Everyone who was closest to her already knew her and reluctantly accepted her jokes and comments. Yama covered her forehead and said, Indeed, it only takes a few hours of you being around me to give me a headache. It will be punishing to have most of my original class around me, still I hope they don't die quickly. Connie interjected, Yama, don't talk nonsense. I shared a room with Takashi for the last few months and he was never someone annoying. Sometimes he snored but everything else was normal. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet for some unknown reason. I snore? Takashi asked, puzzled. Yes. A little. Ha ha, Takashi, I didn't know that. Sasha said with a smile. Mikasa all this time was worried if Eren had spent a good time in Survey Corps. After all, Levi hit Eren the last time. Seeing this, Takashi walked to his side and said, You seem to be worried about Eren. You shouldn't be, it was all a plan so that Eren could stay with the Survey Corps. I know. Mikasa replied quietly. Maybe my uncle overplayed his hand when he hit Eren, but I can assure you it won't happen again. Takashi whispered in a deep voice. He's your family? Mikasa asked in surprise. Well, I found out recently, it would help me if you keep it a secret for now. Takashi said before saying goodbye to Mikasa. Everyone had their own concerns and said nothing more. Takashi, Thomas, Nelson and Connie went back to the dormitory to rest before leaving for the Survey Corps base. Well, I'm glad we're all in the Survey Corps, Connie said as he lay down. Takashi sat up and closed his eyes to practice. In general, if we don't risk too much, once we are experienced soldiers, nothing will happen. Thomas seemed to be the most affected and said, I just hope my family will have a good time, I don't want to give them misfortune. The reason Thomas joined the Survey Corps was very simple, he didn't want to be the only one of his friends fighting for a better future, he had to take care of his family personally and now with Eren, he was sure victory was closer. Thomas said, let's leave it all to the future, we are not in control after all. Sleep well, tomorrow will be a great day. Takashi said and then kept silent. The night was silent, and the next morning, everyone went their separate ways. Those in the 104th cycle went their separate ways. Dude, be careful. Damn it, I'll never see you again, you bastard. Don't worry, we're not far away, see you later. This environment is annoying, if we can't seal the wall Maria we'll die anyway. Jean said angrily. Well, that's something they naturally ignore. Connie agreed. Takashi stroked the back of his horse's mane. The horse he called Barbers will continue to accompany him, and the others will continue to have their horses they are already familiar with. In any case, those who went to the Survey Corps will be assigned another horse to use alternately when inspecting outside the walls. Takashi mounted his horse and rode out of the city with the recruits who from now on would be his companions, who joined the Survey Corps. Captain Levi and the others had already been waiting for them outside. The group and the Survey Corps elites, about 50 people, rode towards the abandoned castle away from the cities and towns. Takashi was riding his horse, watching the towns and rivers slowly receding, and he knew he would arrive soon. The reason it was the former headquarters was that although the castle was quite elegant, The transportation conditions were not good and it was finally abandoned until recently. Now it is being cleaned up and reopened to protect Eren. Of course, there is also a reason, and that is because it is closer to Karanes, where he will start the new investigation outside the walls to replan the route. Nanabar from Mike's squadron said to Takashi, who was looking at the scenery, "Hey, newcomer, with your contribution in the recovery battle, you could become the overall leader of a squadron. Still, because you have absolutely no experience outside the walls, that rank will have to be postponed for a while, understand?" Takashi nodded and said casually, "No problem, I'll learn well." He really didn't know much about off-wall research, especially the long-distance enemy search formation that was definitely unfamiliar at first. Blind command would kill people, so there was no rush to be a squad leader for the time being. Nanabar was a little surprised. "I thought someone as young and powerful as you wouldn't be satisfied with this." Takashi smiled, "I'm not proud at all, I just want to do my best and learn as much as I can to make a good performance." "I'm glad to hear that, I thought I had the wrong idea about you." She had met Takashi twice. During the meeting and the cleaning battle, Takashi showed himself to be someone very intense both times. She thought he was arrogant and difficult to deal with. Takashi looked at Nanabar, who had a relatively average appearance. Her hairstyle was short and blonde, something interesting and very rarely seen. "I really want to win and be able to enjoy the rest of my life peacefully. I hope that life won't be any shorter than expected." Nanabar did not understand Takashi's words and said, "My father thinks I should spend the time I have left with my family. It is really uncertain whether we will live in every exploration outside the walls. Everyone wants to live in peace, but if we want peace we have to seek war." Takashi showed a serious expression over his words. "I hope you are not impulsive. Everyone wants to live but not everyone can be saved. The sooner you accept it the better you will do on the front." Nanabar said directly. "I will keep that in mind, thank you for sharing." Takashi accepted those words. "Do you have a family?" Nanabar asked. He had been very much struck by this new recruit. "My family is in this place." Takashi looked slightly at Levi, not understanding how he had ended up being his uncle and more importantly, what he really thought of his power. "Don't worry, we are all family within the Survey Corps." Nanabar didn't seem to understand Takashi's words. Of course, no one would believe that Takashi was Captain Levi's nephew. After a while, they had all arrived at Survey Corps headquarters. Takashi looked up and looked at the former Survey Corps headquarters. The abandoned noble castle was already in sight. Chapter 80, The Hidden Card of Humanity. At least 2 hours after riding, at around 9 in the morning, Takashi and the others arrived at what appeared to be an abandoned castle until recently. The main building here was cleaned yesterday by Levi and his squad. Cleaning must be very important and serious. Levi takes it seriously. They all dismounted one after another, and the recruits looked at this ancient noble castle with surprise and excitement. Most of the training soldiers were normal civilians. Connie was excited. "Is this a castle? It's so grand. The palace where the king lives must be more brilliant, right?" Jean snorted. "Why do you ask? Don't you regret not going to the military police regiment?" Connie scratched her head. "No, I just feel a little excited to live here. It's not that bad considering our situation." Takashi said lightly, "Well, this is an amazing place but you won't feel that way after a while." Everyone looked at Takashi strangely, so calm, pretending that he didn't mind living in this castle. However, Takashi didn't have time to pay attention to a castle. Lately he has been very worried about the female titan and how she was going to act. Smiling, Connie jokes, "Well, Takashi, was your house a castle or something?" "Well, I lived in a log cabin that is now estimated to have grown grass, for grasshoppers and squirrels. It should be a castle. If I ever decide to return home, I should take you along to help me repair it." Krista opened her big blue eyes and looked at the very calm Takashi. "Takashi, aren't you curious?" Disregarding Krista's lineage that she was re the royal family, but neither Takashi know that, she only knows that she is the illegitimate daughter of a nobleman. She didn't live in a castle either. She lived in a mansion as a child and spent her time on the farm. Her mother only read books and never communicated with her. No one at her age wanted to play with her, something that affected her a lot, but she always tried to be someone normal. Takashi turned to look at the gentle Krista. She told him about her past from the farm, but she seemed worried and didn't reveal her whole identity, but Takashi always felt that these last days someone was watching her. "I am curious. But to me, living in a castle means nothing if there are titans still roaming this world. I can't be at ease." "It seems you never returned home, the hut your father left you." "The cabin is in the village where Sasha's family lives. Someday we'll have to go and I'll show you that house while I'm at it," Takashi said without much thought. Yama looked annoyed. "Hey, I'm warning you, don't play weird games with Krista. I can't forget about my girl Yama, you little giant," Takashi muttered under his breath with a smirk. Looking at the black-haired woman with slight disdain, Takashi always made sure she was included in everything. Yama only seems to want to take care of Krista, but Takashi still has a lot of work to do with her and her story. The powers of the Titans must be obtained somehow. The enemies come from outside and very possibly there is a way to steal that power. "I'm a little curious about where you lived, because you don't look anything like Sasha." Krista ignored Yama's words. "It's no big deal to go to that place, there's nothing special. I was just a hunter. After all, he lived alone," Takashi said with a smile, but he didn't mind sharing his past history with the others. "Ha ha, so you still plan to show us where you trained?" Jean Kirstein shouted in a loud voice. "It's hard to imagine you're just a hunter." Reina was very interested in Takashi, especially his strength and how he survived Annie's attack. He had to get to the bottom of everything, before he tried to end her life. Even though they couldn't rule out the fact that Takashi has the power of another titan, even though she didn't transform when Annie attacked her, there was no other explanation to why she was still breathing now. They all had different expressions and obviously their thoughts were in different places. After a while, they had all arrived inside the castle. Because the Survey Corps recruits will also participate in the expedition a month later, they only have one day to rest and tomorrow they will start the theoretical and training classes to adapt to the expedition outside the wall. After the housing was assigned, a squad leader named Ice Ranger was responsible for bringing all the recruits to familiarize them with the environment here. She seemed to be very enthusiastic and basically took all the new recruits to visit all the places. She also talked about tomorrow's business and everything that will be done in the next few days. After taking the horse to the stable, Takashi was cleaning up with his roommate in the afternoon. This is not the actual headquarters of Survey Corps, and there are many rooms in the castle. This time there were rooms for two. Takashi and Connie shared a room. Connie wiped the edge of the bed with a cloth and said with interest, "Ha ha, I didn't expect that someday I could live in a castle that quite possibly once belonged to a nobleman." Connie was born in a village south of the Rose Wall, not far from where Sasha and Takashi were. Connie smiled with excitement. You know, I actually have a dream of going to the palace to see it, and now it's half realized. Takashi mopped the floor with a mop and said, well, if we manage to stand out on the front lines, quite possibly we will manage to be decorated with honors at the castle. At that moment, Armin entered with a bowl of water. Eren will also be here, we can see him very soon. Yes, it's been a while since we've looked at him. It's only 5 or 6 days, he'll probably miss me already. Takashi wiped the mop in a bucket of water. While the room that would be shared between Takashi and Connie was being cleaned, the senior Survey Corps officers were looking at a stack of documents in the conference room. Only Captain Levi was watching Eren, so he was not present. Zoe said excitedly, unbelievable, 7 of the top 10 soldiers from this cycle's training corps joined our corps, the southern group was the best of all. The files on the recruiting desk sent by Instructor Keith, containing some records of performance over the past 3 years, as well as various grades and the instructor's evaluation of them. Captain Mike added, counting Eren there are 8, which is a bit odd. In the past, 1 or 2 were good results for us. Erwin looked carefully at the information in his hand and did not speak. Rainer Braun has a strong physique and willpower, has earned considerable trust from his peers and has an A and rating. Armin Ollet, although not physically up to the level of an elite soldier, he has extraordinary ideas and has an A and rating. Jean Kirstein, excellent mobility with 3-dimensional maneuvering equipment. Although he has the ability to grasp the situation on the spot, his personality is too sharp and it is easy to get into conflict with others, so he has an A grade. All the information about the best soldiers in the south were promising, but Takashi was the best of all even if he was not the best cadet. Takashi Ackerman, he trains harder than any other recruit, has a high level of leadership, considers everyone a good teammate and doesn't mind sharing time with everyone. Strong, determined, a natural warrior, his fighting skills are unmatched. After Erwin read the file in his hand, he thought silently. Even though he was Levi's nephew, he had to look up what he had done in the past few years and most importantly, what his father did to him. How is the investigation into Takashi's information going? Although many had no doubts about Takashi, everyone had to be investigated for a possible enemy. Zoe thought for a moment and said, no problem, although he was not born in Dorpa, he grew up in that place, it seems he has changed his last name for some reason. According to the information that came in, his father would have died once he entered the forest at the hands of a bear. Takashi even almost died at the hands of a bear before joining the army. He was a hunter, but there was nothing more to it than that. Basically it's safe to trust Takashi, so there's nothing to worry about. Levi said he can be trusted. Mike pondered for a while. Private Takashi Ackerman bore a lot of resemblance to the Ackerman girl and Levi was somehow related to them. Zoe didn't know what to think and said, he has a very interesting mentality, I decided to let him join the 4th Squadron. Erwin nodded, just in case. This time he had no intention of revealing the plan to anyone who had joined the Corps for less than 5 years. Mike waited for everyone to leave and asked, is Takashi related to Captain Levi? I don't know much, but apparently his story is more complicated than meets the eye. He is his nephew and may be the strongest human humanity has against the Titans. Erwin replied without much thought. Mike Zacharias was a much older member than him, there was no doubting his loyalty due to the fact that he trusts him so much. Now that's a surprise. After leaving the conference room and walking down the castle hallway, Marbelt inexplicably asked, Captain, why are you paying special attention to Takashi? Zoe casually said, it's none of your business, don't you think our squadron lacks someone to fight? Captain, you also underestimate us, we are actually strong. Abel was a little dissatisfied. Zoe realized something and scoffed, sorry, I was wrong, you're really good at fighting, you and Niffer are really good. Too shallow, who would believe it? So far, there were only 3 people who knew Takashi's power, Levi, Erwin and Zoe. Of course, she knew she had to be serious about this top-secret matter. No one could expose Takashi's ability and force him to make use of his power, after all his life would be consumed to death.